Welcome to the Alpha Build Podcast!
This week, we have our good friend Golagres back. Welcome back, good friend.
Thank you very much.
We missed you last week. We had our, I guess it wasn't last week, it was like a month ago.
They don't know what you date them, that you post-date them. Nobody knows.
You know what the funny part is? The way you said that, you kind of sound like a Mexican Elvis Presley.
Well, that is my side job.
I was talking to Golagres, but whatever.
Oh, you're talking to him? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I disclosed too much about my personal life now.
I knew that guy selling those oranges looked familiar. Thought it was weird he was dressed like Elvis.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Comic-Con, I guess, is just wrapping up now?
Maybe.
Is it still going on? I don't even know.
I have no idea. I don't pay attention to Comic-Con.
I don't either.
I vaguely heard some people talking about it at some point in time.
Well,
very helpful.
Let this be known: if you're looking for news from Comic-Con, no one here cares. Instead, we're going to talk about video games and things that we played, and you're going to hear our 2 cents.
Yeah, definitely. 2 cents worth of crap.
So I'm going to kick things off, and I'm going to talk about a game that I've been playing and doing a Let's Play of on my other channel. www.youtube.com/GorlocTheMad gaming. And
of course, yeah. Shameless promotion. Beep, boop, beep, boop.
But I've been playing Call of Juarez.
Call of Juarez.
Call of Juarez.
With a title like that, who doesn't want to play it?
I know. Everybody should totally play it.
Have you played it yet, Gol?
I have not. I've watched a little bit of it being played, but I personally
do you
have
own
not
it?
touched it.
Have you bought it on Steam sale?
I think I almost did, and then I didn't.
Oh my god, you should. It's so good. It's really good.
Well, I'm not going to spoil anything for you, but you end up shooting
spoiler
people.
alert.
Yeah, you end up shooting a lot of people. And it's like, what they make fun of Uncharted for? It's, where you're this lovable rogue who shoots an entire country worth of people by the time the adventure's done. Kind of the same thing, But you kill a lot of people, but you're a very lovable killer.
Yeah. No, it's actually a really well done game, and I would highly recommend it to everybody. You play as this bounty hunter, and you're the whole game is you're in a bar telling these stories, and so you're playing through his recollections of the stories, which means sometimes
so they're always far-fetched.
Sometimes he embellishes things a little bit. Sometimes he remembers things a little bit incorrectly. So there's some funny things that happen that way, and there's a lot of play with how the narrative is unfolded. But
yeah, it's really good. Yeah. It's incredibly good. Like, I don't know how many times there's levels where you'll play it one way and then it'll be like, no, that's not how it happened. It actually rewinds the game back and changes the level to change how he tells the story. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and you get some there's a level where there's a Rashomon effect, or I don't know how the correct way to pronounce that, but basically, yeah, you get different people's points of views for it, and you play through it 3 different ways. It's good. It's so good.
It's amazing. Yeah.
And they have a really unique way of doing boss fights with and it's instead of, they have some of it your more traditional boss fights, in my opinion, where they just give one of the enemies more hit points and does more damage. They have those. But they also introduced the dueling mechanic, which is I think a pretty clever, mechanism, because it does give you this tension of a gunfight, because you're sitting there and you have to focus on your enemy, and also you're working with your other hand to kind of try and get your hand over your holster of your gun. So it creates this really good tension.
At first.
Yeah, it does create a tension. Part of the problem, though, and I think it's a good mechanic, just because I think it does capture fully what the kind of gunfight is about. And they've had 3 games before this one to kind of work on that and improve it. So this is the latest iteration of that dueling mechanic. But I think it does a decent job at what it does. There's a few things that they do that I don't agree with. The focus is really floaty, and so there's tension because you're trying to get this floaty focus to work with you. And it's you're kind of what am I? Am I drunk? And because your focus is just going all over the place. Or do I have AD&D? Or it's not AD&D.
AD&D or D&D version 2?
Do I have Advanced Dungeons and Dragons? ADD.
This is 1980s D&D going on here.
So, but do I have ADD and you're just trying to you're on a gunfight and you're saying what's that over there, and your focus just starts moving away? I don't know what the good explanation for that is. But whatever it
annoy
is,
the shit out of you.
it's just annoying. And I know mechanically it helps you. If you had a precise control, there wouldn't be that tension because it would be too easy. So like I understand you're making it a little floaty for that reason, but that's the only kind of.
Well, I mean, I think I don't remember if we've had discussions explicitly about it before, but I mean, like, it's that whole thing, right? Is a game truly challenging, or is it because the controls are shoddy? So,
Yeah.
And that's the problem is when the game starts, you think it's a nice system. And then as you get on and it gets more and more difficult, you realize the only reason it's more difficult is because of the controls. So you kind of feel gypped by the end of it.
Yeah, and I'm gonna make a video about it because I feel like on my my channel youtube.com/GorlocTheMad gaming, I do a web series.
Was that Guacamole Gaming?
Mechanics.
Yeah, it sounded like Guacamelee, the game. Guacamele Gaming.
GorlocTheMad gaming. I'll say it up close. GorlocTheMad gaming.
Don't go there. It's full of seal porn.
On YouTube. But but I think there's a couple things I would change if I was doing it. Like you have like about 10 duels throughout the game. But what that means is you end up mastering it maybe by the last fight, if that. And so like there's a lot of trial and error, and they don't really do the best job at letting you know how you messed up. If you messed up, you died, and you don't know what to do better. So I feel like there's they could have done a little, like they give you some stats, like they tell you, oh, this was your speed, this was your focus percentage, but you don't really know if that's what killed you. You don't know, was it the speed that wasn't good enough to kill me? Was it the focus that wasn't good enough that killed me? Was it the reaction time that wasn't good enough? Was it because there was a chicken there? I don't know what it was, but you just end up dead, and you're just like, son of a gun, and you just kind of basically just says do better.
So are these like missed opportunities when you fail it, or does it force you to go back and like try it again?
No, you just keep and to the game's benefit, it's a pretty quick restart. Like you get shot, you die in the duel, and then you just restart it, and you have to keep going through that until you win. So it's just, I think in general though, it could have done a better job teaching you it. Like they could have had a tutorial level where like you're learning to shoot from your dad or something. Maybe, or something. I don't care how you do it, but it would have been nice to have something that taught you it and taught you how to kind of, if you die, this is how you can tell what you did wrong.
Yeah, it doesn't give you any indicator of what you did wrong, like whether you didn't pull fast enough, your values weren't high enough, whatever. It doesn't really give you an idea at all. Yeah. And it's kind of frustrating.
Yeah, exactly. So, but it's still good. Like I don't want to sound like it's a terrible mechanic. It's just it could give better feedback, or they could, because like what happens is throughout the game they keep adding things on. Like at first, all you have is the focus, and you're like, okay. The next fight they add the speed thing. You're like, okay. So then that's where it's kind of actually tense for the first time, in my opinion. But then they add the dodge, and that's another thing where you have to dodge left and right, but it uses the same buttons as the thing you use to adjust your speed.
Yeah.
And the dodge, they have the dodge in the rest of the game. Like if you're just running around shooting, you can dodge bullets kind of Matrix style. But that kind of works because you're in first person view. Whereas in the duel, you're kind of like at this third person where you're kind of behind your character in an angle.
Yeah, the camera's basically staring at the character's hip, and his hand and gun are in view, and that's about it.
Yeah, and it makes it so that when you try to dodge in that
kind of obtuse, because the goal is to stare at your opponent and read what they're doing in order to determine when you need to draw.
But the problem is you need the camera where it's at, because otherwise the mechanic where you're moving your hand towards your gun to adjust your speed wouldn't work.
Okay.
Without the camera being there.
It does keep the guy in view. Like basically your person's on the left side with his gun, and then kind of on the right side of the screen.
Oh, so it's not third person like directly behind focusing on the gun. It's more of that like offset third person, kind of like why can I not think of the name of that game?
Like that one game, yeah.
Yeah, the one game with the things and the stuff with the third person. Quick that one.
Quick side note, I swear to God I heard a Peruvian flute band when Eban was talking. So I was like listening to him talking, he's like like in the background.
We don't judge people's hobbies, okay? Just lay off them.
there may be music playing on my end that I completely forgot about.
That's okay.
Professionalism.
But yeah, so all in all, I think it's a good game. I'm gonna make a video about it because I think it is a good mechanic. I'm glad to see a studio actually making these kind of new things, because it was a breath of fresh air, a fresh of breath air.
It is. And like aside from
a
the
fresh
game
of bread air.
Yeah, aside
That's what
from
I was
that
about to
dual
say.
mechanic, it's great.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
So
I can talk about another game mechanic that doesn't quite work.
go for it.
Speaking of, I'm going to shamelessly plug my channel now, except I'm not going to because I'm a better person. But I made a video basically where
Well, you can be a better
No,
person.
no.
Less
This is the point in the
subscribers
video
and
where you're
views.
like, I'm not going to shamelessly plug it, and then on the screen you just show
Yeah.
a finger pointing down, link below.
maybe. But have you ever played Binary Domain? Either of you?
No, I can't say I have.
The game itself is kind of mediocre. It has some good points to it, though, in terms of the plot, but it actually has a mechanic where you can use a microphone and give your squad mates orders through the microphone.
Kill the
And
infidels.
I decided to give it a shot, and it works about 25% of the time.
That's 25% more of the time than it works in any other game.
Yeah, I know, right? But it's like, for instance, there's one point where a guy asks you if one of your squad mates is cute, and I wish I was kidding. And you have to answer definitely or no. And so I started to see like how good the system was. I'd be like, definitely, definitely, and it wouldn't pick it up, obviously. But then I would be like, definitely, and it's like, what? I can't understand you. Definitely, definitely.
You got to say it more like you've got rusty nails in your mouth.
No, and then like
Maybe
at
that
one
was
point
actually
he's
part
like,
of the
man,
game.
Get Freeman.
Like part of the game is that the guy you're talking to is actually just a real jerk, and he's just pretending not to understand what you're saying.
I wish it
What'd you
was
say, dude? I
because-
can't understand you.
Oh, so
No,
it's that
no, literally,
whole
he said that,
outside the
though.
box element where the game's screwing with you.
He did that though. I'm not kidding. Like after it didn't register, it's like, man, why did you clam up all of a sudden, man? It's like,
Gonna kill you.
But there are other funny things. But I'll save it for the video.
Yeah. No, I'm glad to see like it was funny because like back in the 80s, people were using sound activation and stuff in their games, and it was useful back then, kind of. But it's like it's still not being used much more effectively today. And so like you have things like the Oculus Rift, and you have things like the little VR treadmill, but voice
God.
activation and voice commands are still like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing.
So,
Mm-hmm.
my brother had the voice commander, which let you write voice macros for games.
Really?
Oh, really?
Yeah. And
like,
I don't remember
did it
how
work
much of it
well
he
at
used.
all?
I don't think he used it really that frequently, but
I can't see it being
wasn't
useful.
terrible. It
I could
wasn't
see it
terrible.
being more useful because I could see it actually being something where you can record your voice, and so it knows what to expect.
See, so I don't think it was quite that developed, but it had like phonetic typing. So you type what you typed what you wanted to name it, what the command did, and then you could phonetically adjust it so it understood kind of what you're saying. So there was like a little bit of leeway, if I remember correctly.
Oh, okay.
It's been
Yeah.
years, so I
That
might
sounds
be off
terribly
on that, but-
wonky, and I wouldn't use it.
The funny part is, going back to binary domain, apparently if you speak anything other than American English, it can't understand you. So if you're British, apparently it can't understand a damn word you're saying. Like, there are videos online of just British people yelling at their console because it won't work.
It only understands freedom.
Eagles and Freedom Prize.
Yeah, it's like all you can hear is, John Philip Sousa. Is it John Philip Sousa?
Yes.
Yeah, John Philip Sousa playing in the background. Dun 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 dun. Suck it, bitch. Dun 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 dun. But anyway, that's enough about the binary domain.
So something else that's been going on: the Dota 2 International just wrapped up, paying out the handsome first place prize of $5 million.
Was that how much it was, or was it still just under?
It was over 5 million by the time the tournament wrapped up.
Wow.
Yeah. So those players are happy campers.
So Tong Fu, now newbie, walked away with $5 million.
It's pretty impressive, and I'm really glad to see actually it's getting that kind of exposure. It was even on ESPN 2, I think it was.
It's ESPN 2, yeah. And you know what isn't impressive?
I'm disappointed
the
though.
finale. The finale was boring as shit.
Was it?
Yeah, the final day of games was so bad.
Newbie stomped VG
Oh, you're
so
talking
bad.
about that. I thought you meant the after show they were supposed to show online.
Oh, I didn't watch it.
Yeah,
they were supposed to be streaming the after show, and I didn't
so
bother.
supposed to be
I didn't even get to
Sandstorm.
catch any of the games. I didn't even watch any of the final games.
No, the final
Because
game
of that,
was literally
having it on Monday. Ugh.
Yeah, VG.
Yeah, I was at work watching.
Won the first game, and then Newbie won 3 games in a row afterwards and stomped them each time.
I know. I
was
heard that.
It was pretty
but
ugly.
I didn't watch any of it.
Yeah, it was really ugly.
I took time out of my busy work day to watch it.
Yeah, and then you had to stay up till 2 or 3 that night doing work.
Yeah.
To make up for it.
Yeah, I did. Well, I figured too. It's like I was still working. I just had it kind of on the side. And people, like when baseball games come on at work, I don't watch that, but other people go into the lunchroom and watch that and stay there for 3 hours. So I'm like, this is my baseball.
Yeah, I mean, like overall, I mean, it's an interesting thing to talk about because especially afterwards, Eban, I know I've talked about with Andy a little bit, but have you seen any of the news from Dendy and Ice 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 afterward the tournament goal?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so there's actually some funny stuff that has happened. Like Ice 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 said that because he's in DK, he was saying that he's commented as saying something along the lines of that Dota right now needs a lot of patches to be good again. He says that the game is not in a good state and hasn't been for some time, and they need to put in a lot of work to make it good for a tournament next year.
Did he give any specifics?
No, he didn't, because he's kind of it's hard to tell whether he's trolling or not, but the way he said it made it seem like it was sincere. He basically said that he felt that a lot of heroes weren't properly balanced, so everyone was picking the same exact hero for everything, and it made the tournament boring in his eyes.
No, I mean, yeah.
So I'm not going to disagree with him because there were a lot of the same hero picks. But how's it any different than any other year of the tournament? It's like the teams gravitate towards the heroes they feel that give them the biggest edge. There's not quite the this is counter pick is being used against this hero or this is being used against this hero. I still don't feel like that part that's supposed to be a part of the game is really excelling. So I'll give him credit in that regard, but at the same time, it's like the hero picks I felt were way more diverse in this one than they were in last year's.
Yeah, that's true. They were.
Yeah, we actually saw Meepo.
Well, not even that. We saw some Pugna
game.
plays, and it's like I don't remember ever seeing Pugna get played.
And there was an
I'm surprised
Undying.
Meepo got played at all.
There was a lot of heroes that got used that don't usually get used.
Yeah. I mean, the problem still comes that you had a couple of those core ones, and I think the reason you had some of those core ones is the professional teams were still adapting to some of the changes to figure out how best for them to play, and it's that whole thing with the rat Dota, and there are still a few heroes that you could use to play that way, but they didn't necessarily mesh well together, so that didn't really work, and I think that's where the frustration came at for some of the same heroes being picked over and over again, because if you're going to do it at all, you really needed multiples of these heroes or it wouldn't work.
Yeah. And I think, but ultimately, I think, it's always going to need to get some, it's kind of a cyclic pattern where they change one hero, then a new meta emerges. So, and that's just something that they have to, the Steam has to stay on top of.
Yeah.
But I think
the other comment came from Dendy. Because someone asked Dendy in a post-game interview, it was something like, how many of the pro teams do you think are going to either disband or change most of their members around? And he said all of them.
Bold statement.
He also hinted that a lot of Na'Vi is not going to be in Na'Vi anymore. A lot of people are guessing that means Puppy and Kuro are out. I don't know if that's true, but he's saying that he basically akin that Na'Vi lost because Puppy basically wasn't very engaged with practicing like everyone else was. So there wasn't nearly as much team practicing as there used to be.
So how do we know Dendy's just not a sore loser? Those guys are OP. It was my teammate.
Dendy is not known for saying
my thing
like
is,
that.
how many of the games did you actually watch? So on that, it's like of Navi's particularly and stuff, and it's like,
oh my God,
I don't know how many times I said it, and it's like they lost a lot of games because Puppy was not pulling his weight.
No, he wasn't.
I think it's sad. I don't think he should be off the team. I think he's probably an excellent coach. I'm not sure he's up to snuff to play anymore.
Honestly, even their picks though it weren't that great. Like the meta game was even being lost by Na'Vi.
I think that the part that was the saddest for me this year was Na'Vi wasn't even as much fun to watch play, and it's because of the transition. Dendy was playing a lot more of the the true carry role and a lot less of this semi-mid carry.
Yeah, and more of the initiator, because that's more of what he seems to do well, is that initiation.
Well, it's plays. That he's like, I always see him as like a really good either skill shot hero playing skill shot heroes or quick queue up heroes, so heroes with lots of really short recast timers that need abilities chained together to be effective.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't feel he the tiny a little bit because of the combo of the stun with the toss correctly to get the double damage proc. I mean, I can totally see that being decent for him, but beyond that, there's not much else going on with that hero. And then he played some other ones that are even worse than that.
I mean,
I'm gonna put the brakes on just because we're getting into some specifics of Dota that a lot of people might not know what the heck we're talking about. I think what's interesting though is we talk about professional esports and how it's growing, and it's like, so now financially it's becoming, you know, the fund this year was greater than the World Cup, wasn't it?
It was Wimbledon. I think it was like greater. The prize pool was greater than that of Wimbledon.
I mean, the total prize pool was over 10 million. So it's like, I'm glad to see that it's getting that kind of level of recognition. And it's interesting that, you know, you're talking about players not being up on their game and you know, and things like that, where it's like, you know, is it something where you actually have to be a young person to do it, or is it something, I don't know, and it hasn't been around that long, at least in my opinion, it's one of those things where it's like, is it just younger people doing it because younger people can get into it more easily? They don't have those day jobs that are holding them back. I don't know. What's the oldest esports player that you know of? Can anyone know that off the top of their heads?
Nope.
I thought Fear was pretty old from EG.
I think the oldest in the tournament was 28.
Yeah, it's like, that's
and then
still
the
pretty
youngest
young.
was 16.
Or is it just because we're the video game generation, so we're the ones that actually care about it? I don't know.
See, I'm agreeing with you. I think that's more the case, particularly with a lot of these games, and that is, I don't think that age is going to be quite as big of a factor as it is actually in a lot. The only counter that is self-inflicted injuries in the sake of, like, you know, like developing tendinitis or
like Fear did.
So that is really the only thing that. But even that, I don't think, like, I think you'd have to be pretty old for it to be bad enough to the point where it's going to completely prevent you from playing if you really want to play.
Was it in the free-to-play movie that they talk about that? That I thought that they mentioned that. I think it was a Chinese player that mentioned it too. He said once you're over 25, you shouldn't play Dota anymore because your reaction time goes significantly downward. And
that's interesting. I'd love to see some studies on that.
So,
anyway, that's enough about the Dota 2 International. But it's interesting. Glad to see esports are growing. And part of the reason esports are growing is because of Twitch. Twitch. Everyone, like, a lot of people stream on Twitch nowadays, and now it looks like YouTube.
So check out Warlock's Twitch feed over at.
I actually don't do Twitch. I think Kadamus does Twitch.
Well, I'm trying to start doing Twitch, but yeah.
But I don't do Twitch. But YouTube is looking into buying Twitch, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, for $1 billion.
Because that would basically put Google in control of all of pretty much most gaming media outlets.
At the same time, my only problem with that for them is, you know, you're constantly getting this pushback from people about, you know, they don't have the rights to stream this. They need to pay the creators of the content for it. And then it's like, that's just putting, you know, Google more in trouble if they own YouTube where everyone stores the content afterwards and the site where everyone's streaming it live.
So when Phil Fish comes a knocking, Google's in trouble. Okay, Google, you owe me $1 bajillion.
You owe me $1 million internet dollars.
The day Phil Fish broke the internet. I'd love to see that. That'd be a good movie. I'm going to make that. That's going to be a horror movie I make. But so this summer, you know, I've mainly been playing Call, and I played Transistor before that. But there really hasn't been that many great games out lately.
Shovel Knight. Shovel Knight.
But I haven't played.
You know, I almost picked that up when it was on sale, and I didn't.
I'm seriously thinking of buying it even now. Actually, I've watched Let's Plays of it, and I've really enjoyed what I've seen. That's like a game I really want to play.
You'll do anything Jesse Cox tells you.
I know I'm a shill of Jesse Cox, but no, I finished Wolfenstein: The New Order, which is an amazing game that everyone should play.
Yeah, it looks good. I just want to pay full
about
price for it.
8 hours in Divinity Original Sin now, which so far is really good.
Yeah, that's pretty much the shining star of this summer.
Dude, it's been #1 for like 2-3 weeks now straight.
And that's the kind of game I really want to play. And I'm just...
think like old school RPG, but with a lot of the shit systems pulled out, except for the rock, paper, scissors system. Other than that, it's great.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Okay, Eban doesn't know about this, so I'll just bring it up quickly. But you can set... Because like if you play it single player, Eban, you have 2 characters that you control. But what you can do is you can set an AI for your second character, so you can actually fight with your other character during certain game sequences and plot sequences. And depending on which AI you pick, they pick different ways to fight you, basically. And if you disagree and you can't come to a conclusion where you both agree, then you literally do rock, paper, scissors to see who wins.
I don't know if we should kill this person. Okay. I think we should. I think we shouldn't. So I know how we'll settle the human
decision.
life.
Okay. So what happened was I walked into a room where this woman was going to cure one of 2 men. She says she can cure one of them, but the other one's going to die. So she gives you, one of them is a 23-year-old who was outside of town who got ambushed by the undead during a party to get, I think it was food for the town. And the second guy was an old man who had worked for the town since he was 12 years old. Now he's 70, and he's having his 3rd grandchild. Well, I immediately said, I want the young kid to live because the other guy had already lived his life. So let the young kid get his chance. And the other lady said, no, the other guy is a grandkid. You're wrong. And I'm like, okay. So I disagree with her. We go into rock, paper, scissors. The computer wins every single time in a row and then wins the argument. And guess what? The story goes the way she wanted it to then.
You're overwritten because of the sacred rules of rock, paper, scissors. So at that point, you have an AI
choosing which way the story is going because I'm losing rock, paper, scissors.
The robot is getting smarter. It's gaining control. Skynet.
This gets stupid. Yeah, this is like Terminator 2 shit going on. It's
no, you really don't want to do that.
And what you can do is you can fix the problem. When you create your character, you can set your AI to loyal, so it just does whatever you want it to do.
So that way, if strip it of all of its feelings and emotions.
Honestly, that's
you're a monster.
Rock, paper, scissors. I don't want to play rock, paper, scissors with a computer. But
it's such a fun game.
But other than that, great game. Plot's really interesting. It's a lot of freeform. There's no quest markers. You have to find it all yourself. Very old school in some ways, but the battle system is very tactical and newer, than the older systems were. So, very good.
Yeah, I want to get that. I'm kind of waiting I'm waiting until I actually have the time to play it because I don't want to buy it and then just have it sit and then Winter Sale comes along and I get it for half off.
And honestly, it's
like a bunch of other games.
They basically made their money back for the funds they put into it, which was like $3 million, and then the extra $1 million from Kickstarter. They already made all that money back within the first week. So the last 2 weeks have been pure profit for them, which is a big deal because they're kind of a smaller studio from Belgium. So
and it's I like their Dragon or Divinity Dragon Commander. That was a decent game. It was a little biased, a little too many mechanics, but it was still there's a lot of creativity in that studio. Many?
When I started that game, I still don't know how the fuck to play it.
Yeah. Was it the card game system, the risk style battling maneuvering,
board game, or then the RTS social, the social environment that you have to maintain with all your crew members, and then the RTS blob mechanics that it has? It's how much shit do I have to memorize to play you?
Yeah, it all kind of worked together, but it's the thing that I see is that studio has a lot of creativity,
that's for sure.
But apparently they ran out of steam, and they're like, "What do we do for when people have disagreements?" I don't know. Rock, paper, scissors.
Rock, paper, scissors. We have to put this game out. We can't deal with this shit right now.
So, is the game co-op?
Yeah, you can play co-op, and that would fix a lot of the problems.
So that's why the rock, paper, scissors thing's in there, is because if the 2 players are okay.
But the problem is when you have an AI, it doesn't quite work the same. And it's one of those things.
Because you would choose them of cheating every time.
When it wins 5 times in a row, 3 times in 3 different arguments, I'm like, I'm starting to think there's something wrong here.
You're just not as good as the computer at rock, paper, scissors.
Shut it.
It's obviously an intense game of skill in reading your opponent.
Yeah, I can't read a computer.
Computers cheat.
And how it does it too is, I think how the algorithm is written or the code is because it makes you pick first. and then the computer picks after you do, and already that makes you think, well, something's shady immediately. It's not like, you have two people put your answers in that shows them at the same time.
Yeah, but even if it had you show at the same time,
you'd probably still question it. But no, it's like, okay, I don't want to kill myself to save the world. And she's like, I disagree. Rock, paper, scissors, you lose. Ha ha, die.
I see your point.
I'll go kill myself now. Thank you for rock, paper, scissoring me to death.
So, Gol, what have you been playing lately?
I just finally broke down and installed Skyrim.
Oh, yeah. I saw you were playing that the other day.
Just now getting around to that?
Yeah, it's what, like...
I just picked it up in the last sale, so...
3 years too late?
Hey, now.
It's a great
I know you
game.
always wait for the complete editions, though.
It's better late than never.
Yeah, it's true.
Finally got that, and then the better one is Warlock. What is it?
I knew you were going to bring it up. I knew you were going to bring it up.
You asked, I knew you wanted it.
I knew. I did. I really did.
Oh. So we tried to play that the other night.
Yeah, and to play, I didn't have... Actually, I'm the only one that didn't have any bugs. I had none.
Really?
It worked perfectly fine for me for over an hour until my computer started crashing. Separate issue, I might add.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe it was it. The way that game is.
Pretty sure it's a separate issue, but
you would have noticed though, because
yeah,
if it was it, because I don't know if this is true for Warlock or not, but my fan immediately starts to spin up really hard, and then the game crashes.
See, the game didn't crash for me, but it would like let me select people, but it wouldn't let me move them anywhere.
It wouldn't
let me like select buildings, but I couldn't build anything. Like it was just like partially mocking me, like, "Oh, look, you can totally do this."
I've only got one thing better than that, which is that I'd had happen every time this event happened. So they get to a point, and I don't know about you, I left the tooltips on at first because I wasn't really sure exactly what kind of game it was. And I can turn them off, and that would solve this problem. But a tooltip pops up for the first time you get requested to do something, and I cannot close out of that window. And then when that window's up, I can't do anything else.
No, I was having that same problem. So I think I kind of figured out how to fix it, and it happens because if I ever do an Alt-Tab out of the game and get back in, I had the problem. Because then when I Alt-tabbed out and Alt-tabbed back in again, it let me close the windows.
So I kept having these periodic crashes to begin with, and to solve those, I played the game in windowed mode. Fixed the majority of my problems.
By the way, Warlock is a medieval kind of like Civ 5 kind of game,
Maybe you should say the whole title.
What? I don't even know what the full title is.
It's
Arcane
Warlock,
of
Master
something.
of the Arcane. It's
That's
Warlock,
it.
Master of the Arcane.
Warlock, Master of the Arcane.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah, it's okay. It's not really breaking new ground, but
yeah, it's not Civ or
if you like Civ, but you want more of a medieval-y fantasy kind of setting, it's not a bad alternative.
Maybe do Age of Wonders 3, for instance.
That looks so good. I was like, that looks like the game I've been waiting for, and then I was like, my wallet was like, no, Andy, you're done. You spent enough money with Steam sale. And I was like,
oh, Steam sale every time.
Yeah, I almost got it during Steam sale as well, but I just didn't get it. I'm gonna wait till Christmas for that one.
That's the nice thing with Steam sales happening on like regular basis. I'm like, I guess I'll just wait till winter when the next huge sale will happen, and it'll happen, so it's okay. You can look forward to it, like like Christmas when you run under the tree. Except I'm running
under the tree. You run under the tree.
I run under the tree.
Your trees must be very tall.
I'm just special. So speaking of special, let's talk about the Yogscast Kickstarter.
Oh, does Eban even know about that? Does Gol know about that?
We talked about it. I think it's been vaguely mentioned to me. I don't know.
It was
very
a long
many
time ago
details.
that we brought it up, though. I assume.
So give us a little bit of background here, Kadamus.
So basically, they raised about $600,000 roughly for a Yogscast video game called Yog Ventures. It happened about 3 years ago, I think. And what happened was it just got canceled about 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, pretty recently.
And basically all that money is now gone. And then what happened is the developer started throwing out certain bits of information, like that he sent the Yogscast $150,000 to hire a new lead programmer, and he was never hired, and somehow they kept the money.
Yeah, and they kept saying that they have no obligation to any funders for the money, and it's causing a little bit of a tizzy over on the interwebs.
A little bit. It's been on every news site for the past week, but no. Apparently, Lewis or Mr. Brinley just responded saying, what happened was that they tried to hire someone, they didn't find anyone, and that the rest of the money was being used for physical rewards that they were promised, even though they're not getting the game.
Okay, so they're at least giving people the things that they had to, like,
the physical
the Kickstarter required them to give out.
Yes, and they're apparently giving them a Steam code for another game.
I don't know though. You've paid to fund one project, you expect that project to deliver, and it's like that's always, I guess, the risk of Kickstarter. So that being said, if that's the route they're going, I pray they never go to Kickstarter again, because people should not support them.
No one's gonna do it, hopefully.
Well, and it puts a taint on any game that's kind of coming out under Kickstarter, that if it's not from like a huge studio that can get it done. Because Yogscast is pretty well known. They do tons of videos on YouTube.
But they're not known for making video games, so
and that's the point. Though, is now it's creating this barrier. Because
I
now
think the other
anybody
problem
that
too
tries
comes
to
from
get
the
a
fact
game
of
made,
like with Kickstarter, and you never really think about it when you're funding one. It's like how are they gonna pay for all the stuff they're promising?
Yeah. See, my concern is just that it's going to make it harder for like other new people, like people that are actually trying to make their first game or something. Because now what's going to happen is people are going to say, "Oh, these people aren't known for making games," and people are getting burned like by Yogscast and things like that.
Honestly, I feel like that was already happening before this event. Like already, the success rate has gone way down. Like there's still a lot being funded, but even Double Fine is considered by some people to be a failure. How long has it taken them to make the second part, and it's still not out yet? And yeah.
I don't think it's a failure because they could have just they could have made half of a game and then just been done with it and said, okay, we're done. But they're gonna produce a full solid game for it. It's just gonna take a lot longer. So
I'm not trying to diss Double Fine. It's just that it comes down to, I think, the expectation versus reality problem needs to be addressed up front, and most people aren't doing that.
Well, my biggest problem is I have a hard time funding anyone who can't provide some sort of a prototype. Now, I know a lot of times the case is so, like in that particular case, if somebody is trying to get a game funded, and that they better have a prototype if they're not a known for making video games already. If they're not known as an existing video game company, they need to have a prototype for me to want to fund it.
A good example of that is actually Shovel Knight. That was a Kickstarter game from a long time ago. It's one of the original. It was a Kickstarter from a long time ago. At least I think a year and a half, and they had a working prototype that you could download and try. That was already said, they've worked on it. This is what the system's going to be like. We just need money to keep working on it, flesh it out, and they just released it for $15, and it's been pretty popular.
Yeah,
and so that's a game that's done it well, I feel.
Yeah, and I think it's just the thing where it's like when Kickstarter began, everybody everyone kind of acknowledged that this was a possibility. And it's just kind of sad that it's happening now at a sad
rate.
At an alarming rate. So I'm sad to see it happening, but in a way, I hope that just I hope that it just doesn't stop. It stops being a venue for new game developers from getting games made, because Greenlight is becoming a kind of a washout where just because you get through Greenlight, it doesn't mean anything anymore, because Greenlight lets so many things through.
Hey guys. Do you want to start a Kickstarter where we buy me an egg sandwich?
Hey, it was potato salad, and it was wonderfully funded, and the guy's in Columbus.
And, well, there's more, though, now. Now, people are starting to copycat and make other stupid Kickstarters
this is
for
dumb.
different
This should
things.
not be a precedent. We shouldn't be allowing this to continue.
I'm only happy to see that the copycat ones actually aren't making any money. So, that at least makes me happy. Because I would have lost my faith in humanity if that had happened.
It's already gone, bro. It's already gone, bro.
What, because a $60,000 potato salad Kickstarter?
Yeah.
This is America, mister, where dreams come true.
Hey, nobody had done it up to that point. It was brilliant. But now that other people are doing the exact same thing, but with different food items, it's not as clever, therefore deserves to fail.
Guys,
Plus, you can't beat potato salad.
Let's all turn into hipsters now and be like, well, he did it right the first time. He's the original person.
He was the
They're
best.
just copycats.
He's the OC.
Or the
potato
OG,
salad
depending on
OC
what
in the
form.
house.
the OPS original potato salad.
Oh, jeez. Well, while we're talking about games and sales and money and stuff like that, the Banner Saga recently made a port of their game, and the Banner Saga is a pretty good game. Like, it's a lot of text, but I think it's kind of a fun strategy game. But anyway, so they recently
I
ported
still
over
haven't
to
picked it up. I want
Apple.
to get it, and I still haven't picked it up.
Honestly, it's hard to suggest for me. Like, I can't suggest you pick it up. It's kind of like it's good in some ways and not in others.
If you
So
really
in other
are
words,
okay
you're
with
justifying
it
me
being
being a
heavy
cheap
narrative,
ass and not picking it up yet.
Honestly, yes, exactly. Like,
I think the artwork's beautiful, and I think it's a good story. But it does, like, there's a lot of time where you just been clicking through narrative dialogue boxes, and you're just like, okay. And I wish they had battles more frequently, because it kind of has like a Final Fantasy Tactics style, combat. But those combats seem way too spread out. Like, I want them more frequently. And, but anyway, but it's still, I think it's a decent game. But they just ported their game over to the Apple iPad and stuff like that, though, and they're having
trying to put it up on the store.
Yeah, and they're having some troubles because apparently people don't like to spend a lot of money on games if they're gaming on their iPad.
Who would have thought? Maybe you should have gone with Android.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know, has anybody ever made a successful game for like over $10 on mobile?
Square Enix has tried about 20 times with reboots. Does that count?
No.
Yes, but the only successful ones are the emulators
Final
on
Fantasy,
mobile.
Have you heard about the Final Fantasy VI debacle on Android?
Oh, I didn't. Don't tell me they ruined Final Fantasy VI.
Well, what they did is they put it on Android, and there was a bug in the game where halfway through the game it would erase your save file. And they had to take it off the App Store. And
halfway through the game is like, what, 100 hours in?
No, it's like 50. Yeah, 50, 60 hours in. The game reaches the halfway point. And then, it's just like, sorry, guys. Bloop, delete.
Try again next time, sucker.
So, I mean, Square Enix is really the shining example of how not to do anything on, app, what is it, game to app transfer. But, yeah, the quote that I find most interesting, and I think the problem is this is the problem with their logic, and I'll go into that. It's like, he continued that, well, they'll spend $600 on an iPad, $4 on coffee, drop $20 on lunch, but when it comes to spending $4 or $5 on a game, it's like this is a life-altering decision. And I'm like, okay, if the app climate is set so that people don't want to pay $4 to $5, then why are you porting a game that's going to be more than $4 to $5 onto the App Store?
Because I'm going to be the first. I'm going to set the bar.
But they're not first. This has been done many times and failed repeatedly.
I'm going to be the first to succeed.
They're not. They're not.
Well, and it's like you might get a few people. You might get a few people, like the people that really are into games might do it. But like your mobile/casual gaming market, they're not going to take a stab at a game for $10 or $15 on mobile.
So here's part of my problem with that too. Your people who would potentially pay for it aren't, because you're really releasing stuff that they can already play on their mobile devices through emulation.
Yep.
So your target audience is really rich people that want to have games on lots of different devices.
So that comes down to the whole problem of really what you need is you need like some sort of marriage between like Steam and Android, where these companies sell one copy of the game and then people can play it on both devices.
Yeah.
But I think
that'd make too much sense.
Along those lines, though,
I mean, the potential Steam streaming's pretty close to that, though.
Well, eventually, as mobile devices get more and more powerful, and you get to the point where you can actually, look at your Vitas and your, and all your other mobile gaming platforms, like you'll pay, a little bit more for those kind of games. So it's like, where does like having like a 3DS and a Vita differ from having your iPad?
Because who buys that? The person who buys that is buying it dedicated as a gaming system. That's the difference. When I buy an iPad or something, I'm not buying it as a dedicated gaming system.
But why not?
Because it lacks the game library, which, it's that whole cyclical cycle. It's like, there's a lack of games, so I won't buy it for this purpose. But there's a lack of games because nobody's buying it for that purpose.
Yeah, and I think that's... I don't have a problem with people trying to sell games for a higher price on the iPad. Just realize it's not going to be successful. But I think people should maybe try to start making games more accessible on those platforms. I don't know how much more it'll cost.
My issue comes more from the cost standpoint. If I buy a game there are games that I have in my Steam library that I wish, for the love of God, I could play on a mobile device, because they are the kind of games that I want to play for like 10, 15 minutes, not when I sit down at my desktop. So, there's definitely room for this, but at the same point in time, you got to let me buy it in one place and play it on the two different things.
Yeah, and it's like Android has some good gaming alternatives, and I don't know if it applies to iPad, but the Moga controllers, have you guys seen those?
Yeah, I've seen them and never
used them
though.
I think they're like at least a step in the right direction, saying you can use this device for gaming seriously. Because basically it's a little controller. Is that what it says
on it?
Yeah, like, seriously, this is legit.
It's the advertising line.
Please use
when I was at PAX East
we're for serious gaming.
I got a free mini one, but you can buy like a pretty serious heavy duty controller that basically holds on and connects to your phone. Yeah, this is totally legit, guys. We promise. You're not going to regret. It's
like when you buy the arcade console with games on it that plugs into your iPad. I got 2 buttons of the joystick. I'm set to play all these games I could have gotten for free.
I just want, I want games to be able to be sold without having to go on mobile, without having to be free to play with unlockable content. Because so many people will get those quote unquote free games, but then spend $20. And so there's this mindset in the consumer that needs to kind of get overcome.
It's not for the consumer to overcome. It's for the companies to figure out a way to get them to convince themselves to do what they want.
Things were simpler back in my day. You bought a game, you played it. There was none of this, free to play, early access garbage.
Oh, now he calls it garbage.
I hate early access. I really do.
I've stopped.
I think it hurts designers more than it helps them.
I think it depends on the designer, but I can definitely see there's room for abuse.
Because unless you're going to make a really social game, like a socially oriented game where you really need like a large scale simulation, maybe. Because I think you wear out your core audience before the game even comes out, and then when the game comes out, your core audience doesn't care because they've already played the game, or they've been turned off because it's buggy. And people, and this kind of applies, I guess, to what we're talking about, where sometimes in people's minds, it might make perfect sense if you sit down and think about it, but they have certain preconceptions, and so if you play an early access game that's really buggy and has a lot of bad mechanics, you might just dismiss that game as being bad, even though it's early access, and you might not come back to it when it actually gets released.
So I agree with it, but at the same time, there's the, I don't know how to word this, but you can't always just assume that a game's going to get better anyways, even if they're given time to fix it.
Yeah. So. And that's the thing. So it's I feel like it's a problem with early access because you're putting the consumer in this awkward spot where you're saying, oh, here's a bad game. We promise it's going to get better. And it's is it?
So that goes to a different pet peeve I have. So now that games are so readily accessible via online and anyone can fix anything after the fact, I don't feel like there's as much QA done on release titles, even for consoles anymore, because it's oh, well, if we miss something, we can always catch it later. And it's not like when you first were playing on consoles and you bought that game, and it's there's no way for us to fix this if there's a bug in this. It's gonna be in there forever, and we got to make sure we get as many of them out as possible before we go to production of actually getting the cartridges all done or the CDs all burned and stuff, because there's no going back once we reach that point.
Yeah. Yep, it definitely gives the game design team a little bit more of that feeling of we don't have to give our A effort.
Yeah, and
at least not. Just get their money first. That's the main thing.
Give us all your money, and then later we may or may not deliver a game as promised.
See, Yogscast should have just done early access.
No, it's just as bad. Just as bad.
No, because at least if they did early access, there would be something for people to complain about instead of just being we don't even have something to complain about. That's a complaint.
Well, it's just I don't like early access. There's very few games that I bought early access that I've appreciated. Betrayer being one of them. I felt that game was handled pretty well for early access. But a lot of games, it left such a bad taste in my mouth that after about the fourth game I bought, I said, no, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. And I just stopped.
I knew a lot of people used to love Rust, but I don't know anybody that even talks about it anymore.
I guess he's still doing a lot of stuff, and that's where part of the problem comes from. Is it's that whole thing with anything. It's the same thing with Minecraft, with all the changes that happened with it for a while and stuff. It's like you get into it and things are going the way you want, and you're happy with your world the way it is, and then suddenly all the servers are going down. There's a new update coming out, boom, and everything you did's been destroyed. So that's the biggest problem those run into. It's not necessarily the fact that they're in this alpha beta state.
Yeah. What you gonna do? Well, I think the last thing I want to kind of bring up today is just talk about a few little teasers that have been leaked recently. So I don't know if you guys have seen this new BioWare teaser, the You've Been Chosen. Well, I know Kadamus has seen it because he sent it to me.
I sent it to you.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen this, but you sent it to me, so I'm going to send it back to you. It's that whole thing when someone finds this video and they're so excited because it's like, oh my god, have you seen this video? And they send it to and everyone's like, we've seen that it was like up and everyone was talking about it 2 months ago.
Well, yeah, it's a really weird teaser coming from BioWare. That's, I think, what most people are talking about it.
It's like I walk away not knowing anything about the game.
Well, it's a teaser.
Well, you'll have to send it to me to watch so I can be the deciding factor on it.
It doesn't matter. It's just they're teasing a horror game. That's what most people are excited about. It's like, what horror game is BioWare going to make? It's like a horror game where you have RPG elements. You can romance
this
ghosts.
Game.
Like even that game that Bethesda's publishing, what is it? The Something Within? I don't know. But like that game, I felt like I had more of an idea of what. At least I kind of had a better idea of what the game was going to be about.
That's playing with that whole alpha build thing. You know, if people don't know what the game is, they can't be disappointed.
Yeah,
it's like everyone knows what Evil Within's going to be. It's made by the Resident Evil 4 guy. Everyone knows exactly what it's going to be.
Yeah, and it's like I just kind of walked away from that BioWare teaser though. Like I didn't even I had zero hype because I'm just like I don't know what to be hyped about.
Yeah, and I think most people aren't hyped. They're just like, what the hell kind of horror game are they going to make? Because, I mean, that studio has no history of a horror game ever being made. So it's like, what are they going to do with it?
It's a new IP.
Yeah, which is good in some ways. At least they're not going back to, let's just do Mass Effect 20 or, we're
going to rehash the same 20 IPs 20 more times.
Right, exactly.
We at least got to give them a break of a year before we do that again.
I mean, they're EA. That's par for the course. But
oh, yay.
So, what was the other games that were mentioned recently? So you just had one and you said multiple?
I thought there was another one, but I realized...
It's an alpha. It's not completely done yet. It's okay.
Oh, it's early access? Is that why we're not talking about it?
Yes.
Maybe.
You got to tune in next week for later access.
Oh, sorry. I made a loud noise there. I apologize.
I just hit my cat with my keyboard. Apologies, guys.
Sorry.
I'm not apologizing to that cat, though. He had it coming.
No, I don't. If I was paying more attention to the news lately, I might have something to say, but I've been keeping my head down and playing a few other games lately, and I don't care about Comic-Con, so I'm sure there's some news there, but
yeah,
meh.
Firefly,
there were people dressed like these characters from these things.
Half-Life 3 has been announced.
Yeah.
When isn't it announced? It's always announced. It's never delivered.
David came out and he said half, paused, life, paused, 3, then everyone died from a stroke.
He should totally do that at a
Valve works on the original IP. What?
He should just. I would love for him to have a conference and just keep talking about Half-Life, like not actually say Half-Life. Like he just like Half-Life has been very fundamental to this studio. Like he just keeps saying the word Half-Life, and then he just randomly switches to another topic.
And now we're announcing Ultra Half-Life 1, the new series.
It's a remake. Oh.
Okay, guys.
Nope. Sorry. The real announcement is Gordon Freeman in Dota.
No, you know what? It's the Gordon Freeman announcer pack where it's just silent the whole game.
I honestly, so in some regards, I kind of wish Valve would talk to some other companies to get permission to take their intellectual property and incorporate it into Dota. I think it would be kind of cool, but at the same time, I actually hope they don't, unless it's only in the form of cosmetics for certain characters.
Yeah, Heroes of the Storm, it's kind of fun because you have all those different people in it, so it's like there's something to be said for having all these different icons running around.
Yeah, I guess.
There's been a few ideas that it's like you could never do for Dota 2 because it's like, yeah, it's a little too close to someone's intellectual property. You're gonna get sued.
I still, to this day, I'm just like, the fact that the Dota 2 got the legal separation from WoW, I'm just like, I understand how it works, but I'm just like, geez. That's Steam for you, though.
Maybe some company should have done something with it instead of sit on it for 10 plus years.
They were working
I don't even think it was theirs to begin with. I think that's baloney that they even got as much of a claim to it as they did.
The only reason they got a claim to it is because of the names of the characters were IP from Blizzard.
Yeah, but even Blizzard within itself, that IP particularly, stuff, a lot of the content from it was originally stolen from other existing fantasy work.
Yeah.
So that's like the whole problem is it's like, video games have always taken content from other resources without ever saying what it came from.
You know what? If you don't shut your mouth, you're gonna get sued by Blizzard. Okay, watch it.
No, I'm gonna get taken out and beaten and thrown in a trunk and buried someplace and never heard from again. Bye forever. Won't see you next week.
But they'll commemorate you by putting you as a card in Hearthstone, a really shitty one.
No, you'll be trapped in the card.
You won't even be able to tell what it is.
Just like Superman.
You'll be like, what the hell's a Gola?
Wasn't that Superman 2 where they trapped him in this mirror?
No, that's the third one, isn't it?
Cellophane S. Whichever one you're talking about,
like
it must be the one with the cellophane S.
Yeah,
I'm just talking about Gold being trapped inside of a card.
God, what's the name of the bad guy in that Superman
Hey, at least
movie?
I get to see outer space.
Oh, Zod. Are you talking about Zod?
One before Zod. Two before Zod.
All here before Zod.
Yeah, that's it. Okay. I think this has gone on long enough here.
Yeah, we've kind of run over. We're running out of things to talk about anyway. So, thanks for listening, everybody. This has been the Alpha Build Podcast with GorlocTheMad, Kadamus, and Golagres. And we appreciate you listening. Feel free to like, favorite, subscribe, do all that social stuff, and we'll catch you next time.
Hey, guys, maybe for the outro, we should make seal noises.
Sure.
I'm not sure that's a seal.
I just told him because I wanted to hear him make seal noises.
It's almost Yeti-like. No, wait, not Yeti.
Shut up, William! You sound more like whales.
Yeah, kind of.
It's a Wookiee.
It's a wait.
What a Wookiee!
That's a terrible Wookiee.